Hello, I'm Carey Gillam, and thank you so much for inviting me to the Austrian Consumer Dialogues. I regret that I have not been able to come to Austria from the United States. These COVID restrictions are just too onerous, and I had to stay here. But I wanted to provide a little bit of a message about my work and my feelings about pesticides and chemicals in the world and how they are impacting our health and the health of our environment, and why I'm so glad that the Austrian Consumer Dialogues is getting underway. So I want to share with you a PowerPoint presentation that gets across a lot of the points that I like to make. Let me see if I can share my screen. So I call this a conversation about accountability, because really we all are accountable for the health of our children and the future in front of them. Rachel Carson was a very famous scientist and author back in the 1950s and 60s. And I think her words ring true today. If we're going to live so intimately with these chemicals, eating and drinking them, taking them into the very marrow of our bones, we had better know something about their nature and their power. And that is the work that I have been trying to do for these last 25 years that I've been a journalist and an author. So I live here in the United States. Of course, I'm an American journalist, so some of my statistics here are about the United States, but they carry a message for people around the world. You will see that there are 1 billion pounds of pesticides used in the United States each year. 75% of these are used in agriculture for farming. Approximately 5.6 billion pounds of pesticides are used around the world. We get a lot of our drinking water from groundwater that's contaminated by pesticides. Pesticide residues are commonly found in an array of foods, fruits and vegetables, cereals, snacks, foods that we give our babies and our young children. In just one US government report, residues of 115 different pesticides were found on bell peppers, for instance. Pesticide exposure is linked through science to cancers and many other health problems. Scientific research shows a connection between pesticides and non-Hodgkin lymphoma, multiple myeloma, prostate, liver, pancreatic, lung, and non-melanoma skin cancers, as well as diseases such as Parkinson's and reproductive problems. Researchers tell us pesticides are also detrimental to our children's brain development. Cancer is becoming all too common. Here in the United States, 40% of men and women are expected to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetimes. My own father died from cancer in 2020. My husband was diagnosed with cancer in 2021. I'm sure that all of you listening today know someone who has suffered from or died from cancer. It's becoming far too common. 1.8 million people were diagnosed with cancer in the US last year. Cancer deaths and cancer incidents are on the rise around the world, including throughout Europe. Here we see that it's not just adults, but children. You're seeing cancer rising in young children, many different kinds of childhood leukemia, brain tumors, liver tumors. A lot of this we know can be tied to environmental contaminants, and pesticides are among those environmental contaminants. You see here, this is a pesticide called paraquat. It's been shown to cause Parkinson's disease, increases the risk exposure 150%. This is a Dutch neurologist who has risen to international prominence with a book and his work exposing this connection. And we're seeing here from scientist Shanna Swan that human infertility, reproductive problems are related to many pesticides and other chemicals that have what is called endocrine disrupting potential. And this affects the hormones, which affects your ability to get pregnant, it affects your immune system, it affects sperm counts. Endocrine disrupting chemicals are very dangerous for the sustainability of human health going forward. Three commonly used pesticides in agriculture are glyphosate, chlorpyrifos, and atrazine. You may have heard of a lot of these. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. It's known to cause cancer, kidney and liver problems, reproductive problems. Monsanto developed Roundup. It's been widely used around the world and the subject of controversy in Europe and elsewhere. These are a few quotes, if you can read them in English. Linda Birnbaum, Barbara Cohn, Chuck Benbrook. These are prominent US scientists and academics, and they are telling us that we are flooding our world with chemicals that have the capacity to harm us years down the road, much as we found out with DDT. This is from our Food and Drug Administration in the United States, but again, this carries over for countries around the world. You can see that there are hundreds of different pesticides that are commonly found in food. These are some of them. These are insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, chemicals that we are serving up to our children when we give them cereal in the morning, or even a piece of fresh fruit or vegetable. The United Nations has come together, and their experts are telling us that we have to find a way to phase out and reduce the use of dangerous pesticides in farming and get to a more sustainable agricultural practice. These excessive use of pesticides are very dangerous to human health, the United Nations tells us. The wrong path. I want to use an example here, one that I've written quite a bit about. This is Roundup and glyphosate. This is the most widely used weed-killing chemical in the world, brought to the world by Monsanto, which is now owned by the German company Bayer. Glyphosate is used in farming on, all of these different kinds of foods. It's used with soybeans and corn and wheat and canola and sugar beets and all of these other strawberries, spinach, squash. It's used in vineyards for around the grapevines to keep weeds out. It's used in orchards which grow apples and peaches and oranges. So this is a very prominent, very ubiquitous chemical. We find it even in oatmeal and other baby foods. It's found in the US in our waters and in our US streams and our rivers. This is a government agency that found it in 66 of 70 US streams and rivers when they did a survey. The general population is exposed to glyphosate through food, water, and air. It's even been found in rainfall by our government agencies. You can see here that there have been a lot of different studies looking at how humans are exposed to this. We're seeing here, this was a study in the United States that showed glyphosate in human urine, studied over the years, and you can see here how it rose over the years, so that the prevalence in human urine is found, and also the concentrations has increased. The World Health Organization has told us that this chemical glyphosate that is in our food and our air and our water is a probable human carcinogen. There's a positive association to non-Hodgkin lymphoma, but also a whole range of other problems, kidney disease and infertility. This is more from the World Health Organization, International Agency for Research on Cancer, looking at how they found glyphosate to be a probable human carcinogen. Here is a study that came out raising the risk of non-Hodgkin lymphoma by 41%. More studies. I'm loading you up with studies here. I'm going to run out of time in a minute, but this is showing glyphosate has key characteristics of being an endocrine disruptor, which I spoke about a little bit earlier, which can interfere with reproduction. Another study, endocrine disruptors. More studies, and more studies showing that glyphosate, just one of many different pesticides that is used, that is prominent in our world today, is dangerous to human health. And I like to say here as I close that, we talk about ourselves, but it's not just us humans at risk here. We have the insect population around the world that is in steep decline. More than 40% of insect species, a third are endangered. The scientists tell us heavy use of pesticides is a very big factor in all of this. We're seeing birds vanishing, bird populations. The number of birds in the US and Canada down by 3 billion over the past half century. And again, we're seeing pesticides playing a role in that decline. This is a picture of my father and my daughter. My father, who was an environmental advocate for many years and who died from cancer in 2020. And my little girl many years ago, she's an adult now. But he really believed, and I believe, and I hope that all of you can come to learn and engage on this fact that, you know, we are responsible. We're responsible for our future generations, and we're responsible for knowing what we're eating and what we're drinking and what we are allowing our government leaders and our regulators to put out into the world. And these pesticides and other environmental contaminants are threatening our future generations, or threatening my children and your children and their children. And so it's pretty simple for me. I say here, when we poison our planet, we poison our children. But if we work to nurture and sustain this planet, we provide a healthy home for generations to come. And that's my message. And this is what I hope that we can all, learn and appreciate and try very hard to protect our planet. So thank you again for having me. And I hope that the conference goes well. Thank you.